Greetings, YouTube. I was watching a video recently when someone was doing a movie review. I think it might have been of the new Guardians of the Galaxy, and it was pleasantly spoiler-free. It was a positive review. I was very happy about that. As the time of this filming, it is April 28th, so I haven't had a chance to see the film yet. So I'm hoping it's good. You may see this in the far future. I don't know when this is going up. But in the process of watching this video, he was throwing out random types of scores because he doesn't actually give movie scores any longer. He did it one time. So he's like, well, somebody tell me what kind of score system I should use. And a random nonsensical word popped into my head. And that random nonsensical word was Fleem, which is in the title of this video. And if you're going to be talking about that, I thought, well, if you wanted to talk about it, you have to decide, are you talking about metric or imperial fleems? And of course, being a traditionalist, I would choose imperial fleems. So they got me thinking, what's a fleem? Now, it could be a unit of measure. So it could be some strange unit of measure that could be applicable to, say, a very odd creature, maybe one using a type of sense or measuring apparati that they possess that is beyond the ken of your average human or humanoids. Maybe something like the thri-kreen use or the aboleths, something an insect or an aberration would use. So you could say it was some sort of strange unit of measure that humans have no real understanding of, but that kind of makes it a sideline comment, because if they can't really understand it, it may be slightly difficult to kind of wedge that into a campaign idea or an adventure idea of making it a plot point. If the humans and the humanoids can't appreciate this, how do they interact? How do they engage with that unit of measure? So you could use that. It would take a little creativity. And this is something I just thought of off the top of my head, so I haven't thought about it in any depth. So if you think that this is a decent idea, tell me what you do with a unit of measure called the fleem. How do you detect it, and what is it gauging? Another idea, which is a little pedestrian, a little prosaic, is you make it a coin or some other kind of currency. So instead of crowns or florins or drachmars or what have you, I've always despised just calling things gold pieces and silver pieces. It's kind of dull, but it is generic. So everybody understands it when you say the gold piece or silver piece. At least more or less they do. I like like an orb. That's a good one. I've always like orb. Right? That's a heavy coin. An orb is a heavy coin. It's more valuable than the standard coin. So it could be just like a fleem. Could be some unusual coin. Maybe it's made from an unusual material, something that is not encountered by the characters often. Maybe it's a kind of coin that's in a shape and made from a material they don't recognize, so they may not even be aware that it is currency. So that could throw them for a loop. They could be disregarding or ignoring currency, which they could become important later in that adventure or the campaign. What do you mean you walked past a cache of fleems? What are you, crazy? That kind of a thing. But then again, I said that's a little prosaic and a little pedestrian, a little common. So I think I'd skip using fleem as a currency, but it is an idea. So I thought, okay, what if fleem is a creature? And the word fleem makes me think of the word flump. Now, I'm sure that a lot of people have not necessarily heard of a flump. I plan on tacking an image of a flump on at the end of this video, if I remember to do so. I'm hoping I do. But basically, a flump is a disc-shaped creature that has eye stalks on the top and that has tentacles that come out the bottom, along with bony spikes. And essentially, it levitates and then it drops onto prey. It is an omnivore, and I think its spikes are hollow, so I think it drinks the juices. I'm not sure that it actually consumes it in a conventional manner. I think it's more insect-like in that regard. And while they are aberrations, they are not evil. They are good aligned by and large. Now, I've used flumps in the past because flumps are the most wonderful creature ever conceived of for the D&D game, ever. I will not argue about that. And they're known throughout the multiverse. My flumps, however, was a group of flumps, and they were actually the only flumps in the universe. of all the universes. Every prime material plane, it was one group of flumps that existed in multiple places at once. They were omnidimensional beings, and essentially they slipped between dimensions the way you and I take a stride. They literally did not think of it. It was nothing to them. It was simply how they are. And if they could be made to understand that other beings can't do this, they would think the rest of us deeply and horribly handicapped. The way we might look upon a person who has no arms and no legs. I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that a lot of people have a sense of revulsion if they see someone with no arms and no legs. And so they were going to be a plot point in the campaign. The campaign did not make it that far. Had a number of campaigns do that over the years. And the Avengers rather, were going to be able to use the flumps to get from one place to another after they allied themselves with the flumps through either interaction, doing favors for them, side quests, fetch quests, or they just out and out paid them somehow if they could figure out how to pay a flump. You get the point. They're weird. So the Fleem is related to the flump. So instead of being a disc-shaped being like this, they're a disc-shaped being like this. And they have tentacles that come out the sides. They still float. They have no spikes. And they have eyes that radiate all the way around the edge, just like the flumps do. You can't sneak up on a flump, man. It's got eyes all the way around. And they hunt through, we'll say, an eye beam of some variety. They can only fire one at a time, but it can come from any one of their eyes. So they can fire in any direction in that plane. And of course, they can still tilt themselves. So it makes them able to hunt in pretty much any direction they want to. And you could say maybe they psychically absorb the prey. So they're living off the life energy that is released upon death. Maybe it's related to, what was that book that dealt with binding things to your body? It was tantric. It wasn't Tome of Magic. Incarnum. Maybe they're involved with Incarnum. That's a nice idea. I just thought of that. So they're harnessing the spirit force of the creatures that they kill. And you could decide that they're more neutral. They're not evil. They're not good. They may have a prohibition. They will not kill sapient beings unless it's absolutely necessary. But if it is absolutely necessary, say in self-defense, they will still absorb their life force, which is more powerful than the life force of a cow or a dog or a chipmunk. So the Fleem is this strange creature. Could be pod-like the flumps are, because the flumps come in pods. Could be more solitary. And let's think about, what is the agenda of a Fleem? Now, I'm rolling with this pretty much here on the video live. The only part I thought about before was that they were vertical disc creatures, and I kind of thought about the fact that they had tentacles coming out of the side. And yes, if people will notice, I have a thing for monsters with tentacles. Be that as it may, I am not into tentacle-born. What the fark just happened? Did I just freeze my video? It's still recording, so we're going to see what happens afterwards. My image just froze. Okay, it's unfroze. I think I screwed the camera up when I moved so quickly. So the Fleems are strange creatures. They vertical discs. They float around. They use eye beams. They absorb the spirit energy of creatures in some kind of manner similar to Incarnum. They harvest that and they use it in some way, maybe to fuel their other magic abilities. Maybe if they don't take a life, after so much time, they can no longer use their eye beam and their other abilities. They need to recharge, that kind of thing. Or they just use it as a form of food. So, what's their agenda? What do they want? Why are they here? How do they interact with other sapient beings? Do they understand the interaction of other sapient beings in the way that we do? Do they look upon us as freaky aberrations, or have they have a complete understanding of who and what the humanoid races are? Because I can guarantee you, the humanoid races looking at one of these things is going to consider it a freaky aberration, because technically within Pathfinder and D&D, it is an aberration. It's a tentacled monster. So let's talk about the Fleem. What will we do with it? How do we flesh it out? I want you guys to help me come up with some ideas here. Also, I am open to other suggestions you have for what a Fleem is. I said unit of measure, currency, and a creature. Can you think of something else that a Fleem is? Is a Fleem a political body? Is it a process? Is it a magic power? There are lots of things a Fleem can be. I want to hear your thoughts and ideas on what a Fleem is. And I hope when you think of this, your camera doesn't freeze on you.